Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that 20% of your savings had disappeared overnight. Most Americans would call that theft. Yet something remarkably similar happens every year, slowly, quietly, and legally. The dollars sitting in your bank account look the same. The numbers on your paycheck look bigger. But somehow groceries cost more. Insurance costs more. Housing costs more. Vacations cost more. Almost everything costs more. That's the illusion of inflation. A system so powerful that it can make people feel wealthier while reducing their purchasing power at the same time. And in recent years, political decisions, trade policies, government spending, and economic uncertainty have accelerated concerns about where this story may be heading. From Washington, D.C. to the casinos of Las Vegas, the same lesson keeps appearing again and again. When money becomes easier to create, it often becomes harder to keep its value. Most Americans believe taxes are taken directly from their paycheck. Federal taxes, state taxes, property taxes, sales taxes. But there's another tax that rarely appears on any statement: inflation. Unlike traditional taxes, inflation doesn't arrive with a bill. It quietly reduces the purchasing power of every dollar you own. Imagine earning $50,000 per year. If prices rise faster than your income, you're effectively taking a pay cut even if your salary increases. This is why many Americans feel trapped. They receive raises, yet somehow fall behind. The system rewards nominal gains while quietly eroding real gains. During periods of heavy government spending, economic stimulus, supply chain disruptions, and rising deficits, inflationary pressures often increase. Political leaders from both parties promise prosperity, but very few explain the long-term consequences of expanding debt and increasing money supply. The result is a population focused on earning more dollars instead of asking whether those dollars are retaining their value. That's why inflation has been called the silent thief. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't need legislation. It simply works in the background, year after year, transferring purchasing power away from savers and toward those who own appreciating assets. Donald Trump's economic policies sparked one of the most intense debates in modern American finance. Supporters argued that tariffs, domestic manufacturing incentives, and economic nationalism would strengthen American industry and reduce dependence on foreign competitors. Critics argued that tariffs increase costs for businesses, which eventually pass those costs to consumers through higher prices. The reality is more complicated. Tariffs alone do not create inflation, but they can contribute to price pressures in specific sectors. When imported goods become more expensive, consumers often pay more. At the same time, tax cuts, government spending, labor shortages, supply disruptions, and global conflicts all influence inflation. The challenge for ordinary Americans is that these policies rarely exist in isolation. They interact with one another. One administration spends heavily, another cuts taxes, another imposes tariffs, another increases borrowing, yet the cumulative effect can still lead to higher prices over time. That's why inflation isn't merely an economic issue. It's a political issue, a social issue, and ultimately a household issue. Every major policy decision eventually reaches the kitchen table. The debate may happen in Washington, but the consequences appear in grocery stores, gas stations, and monthly budgets across the country.
At first glance, Las Vegas seems like the last place to learn financial wisdom. Bright lights, casinos, slot machines, endless entertainment. Yet Las Vegas reveals an important truth about human behavior. Casinos don't need to win every hand. They only need a small mathematical advantage over time. Inflation works in a surprisingly similar way. Most Americans don't notice a few percentage points of purchasing power disappearing each year. But over decades, the effects become enormous. $1 today buys far less than it did a generation ago. Savings accounts that once felt secure often struggle to keep pace with rising costs. Meanwhile, assets such as businesses, stocks, real estate, and productive investments frequently benefit from inflationary environments because their prices tend to rise alongside the broader economy. The casino teaches a lesson many people miss. Small percentages matter. Tiny advantages compound. Tiny losses compound too. The difference between preserving purchasing power and losing purchasing power can determine whether someone retires comfortably or struggles financially. Las Vegas understands probability. Inflation understands time. And together, they reveal why so many people underestimate the long-term impact of economic forces they barely notice day to day.
From being told to save money all along, we've come to understand that putting some money away in the bank is more important than just hoarding it. The current financial system seems to value being a holder more than being a saver. Owners have more rewards than those who merely hold savings. Nowadays, seeing dollars lose their value against inflation is pretty common, but assets might not always follow the same pattern. Businesses can raise prices, and property rents could soar as well. When it comes to stocks, you see companies reaping the benefits of their growth. This gives us insight into how the wealth gap has become a big deal in society recently. The system isn't just based on everyone putting in the same level of work. It's all about who is actively making investments and who is more focused on becoming an owner. The critical question isn't about just how much money you have in your account. It's about whether the money's being utilized effectively. Will it stay secure because inflation is taking its toll on it? Or will it be contributing to growing assets that can grow over time? It's not just about having dollars, but how they're being used to create progress. In the end, understanding how to make investments and play an active role in assets can greatly impact your financial future. It's not about merely saving money, but using it to work towards building wealth and happiness.
Inflation isn't just about rising prices. It's about declining purchasing power. The people who understand this shift stop measuring wealth by income alone and start focusing on ownership, productivity, and long-term value creation. In a world where money can be printed, borrowed, and spent at unprecedented levels, protecting wealth requires more than simply saving it. But what if inflation isn't the end of the story? What if the biggest transformation in money hasn't happened yet? Because around the world, governments, banks, and technology companies are preparing for a future where cash becomes less important. Transactions become fully digital, and every dollar becomes easier to track. The question isn't whether money is changing. The question is, who will control it? Next episode, the digital dollar, the future of money, or the end of financial freedom. See you in episode 8.